All right, good afternoon. We're going to go over our circle progress monitoring, which is our CLI today, and our PLC. It is the September 2025. We're going to go over the beginning of the year data. So my name is Dr. Madison, which all of you guys know me. You see me on campus, but we're going to go through some of this data. So I pulled and accumulated all of the data that we have so far. Okay? So we're gonna go over some norms. What's some norms? Can you read them out to me, Ms. Wilson?
What's taught here stays here. We respect all persons. Let's be mindful of technology. Own and receive data, and take something we can directly impact the classroom.
Yes. So we're gonna actually use what we use here. What we say here will leave here. It's not like Vegas, or what stays in Vegas, what says and does in Vegas stays in Vegas. No, we wanted to leave here and expound our craft that we do. What's one norm that you would like to pick on, Miss Davis?
Let's be mindful of technology.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilson and Ms. Davis. So let's be mindful of technology. All right, our agenda. So today we're going to go over the data. We're going to identify trends. We're going to create small group plan with 2 activities. We're going to do an action charge, and then we're going to have a closeout. And this is presented to you by Dr. Madison. And you can stop me and ask questions. So you look here for the reading data with CLI. We have 20% are in red, our struggling students. We have our 17% has shown a medium growth. We have our 20% that has shown, yes.
Will you be sending this out to us in the email?
I sure will, thank you. I will be sending the data out in the email as well for us to follow. And you'll see me going back and forth, because of course with technology, some things happen. So here, this is our growth summary report. This is where we were and where we are. So what we're looking for the beginning of the year. These are our areas. If you look at our trends, this is with our reading, our foundations, our subitizing. We look over here. This is also some projected growth. You see we're at 9.7. We're getting there, but we're not quite at the levels where we want to be. Here you see our math, so that was our reading. This is our math growth with identifying numbers. We're still struggling. We're in the red. I put it at 30%, 42%, and 43%. In the yellow, our medium growth, we have 28%, 14%, 17%. And then our overachievers, the ones that are really already on level and they're really showing above grade level, we have 16%, 22%, 20%, and 19%. Yes.
Can you go back to the slide?
I sure can.
So I noticed 5th grade has like 43% in red. What did you say? That means that they are below grade level?
Yes, that they are below grade level. This is a triggering point that we need to focus on. It will be one of our target areas. So I'm meeting with them after we work through this. Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because we want to own our data. So we don't want to say, oh, this is someone else's, and we want to own it because this is Care Peak, so this is all of us. We want to own that. Here, if you see the diamond swimming, that means they're where it needs to be. We're not quite there, but our diamond is kind of swimming. You want your diamond to be swimming all the way. What it means is it's observed growth, and then it's the grade level norms and the projected growth of what we're going to be looking at for our CLI data. Now here, with our growth reading scores, we see we're by 10 points, 7 points, and 17 points. So the beginning of the year, they should have grown by 10 points. We should see that growth for the beginning of the year. Now you look here, this is where I have it. So I have Carrie Dominguez in Sandoval's class, 49%. And as you see, Ms. Wilson, you have the highest data growth there. So thank you for that. Let's celebrate her. Yes, thank you. We have the highest data growth that has met their goals. So we look here, I pulled out a few students and a few students' names and highlighted where they are. So 173, if you see the blue, that means they're over grade level. If you see the green or the yellow, the green means they're targeted, the yellow means they're our bubble students, our medium students, who we need to give a slight push. The red, that is our danger zone. That's the area that we need to pull those kids up. So what we're gonna look at, looking at the data, looking at where we are overall as a campus. This is continue looking at the data. Ms. Wilson, your data looked amazing. I wanna say thank you for that. And we're gonna talk today to see what can we do? How can we up and encourage and uplift that data? This is more for our math. You see the red. So now that we have the data, we see our points, and you all have your individual sheets at each table as well. So you see your data points. Now what? So I want you to turn and talk about what next steps should we take. So now that we know the data, what should we do from there?
What I noticed was that we have a lot of growth that needs to take place. So the next steps would probably be to pull students for small group intervention, and use like some of the strategies that we talked about in our previous meeting, Dr. Madison. I think that would be a good starting point for us.
Okay, very good. Would anybody else like to talk about what they talked in their small groups? Yes.
What I noticed, well, you said when we taught in small groups?
No, what would be the next steps?
Oh,
So we have our data, so now what are our next steps?
Our next steps would probably be, like y'all mentioned, the small groups, but also just, pull out, you can also pull out individual students. It doesn't have to be in a group setting. You can pull the kids, use manipulatives, also just using this data, you can even assign things that they can do at home, and just different interventions that they can utilize.
Exactly. Thank you guys, and thank you everyone for sharing. If you look, and I do have snacks on each table, so you can pull that and use that. So if you look at this, we have our data, and you're exactly right. Now that we have that data, what we need to do is move forward from that data, right? Next steps, we're going to be grouping our students. I heard that, the small groups, targeting instruction, pulling the needs of what these students need based on like data points. So we are going to group our students where they are. Our low learners, are we going to put 10 low learners all together? No, we don't want to put 10 low learners all together, but you might need 2 groups. So you may have to say 5, a group of 5 and a group of 5. But you're going to group them based on the need from the data. So we're going to use data-driven instruction. Yes.
That reminds me, last time we talked, you did mention that it should be groups of like no more than 3 to 5 in the groups to make sure that you can target those students.
Yes. Make sure that we target those students. So you remember that when we had that coaching cycle. So example, 4 students. So what does it look like? I don't want to just tell you, group your students and go. I'm going to actually break down what it looks like. An example, 4 students are struggling in decoding. This will be your decoding small group. So 3 days a week where you'll group these students and provide small group instruction on decoding skills, using activities that are on their decoding level. So it may not be tier 1 instruction. This is where we need to break it down when we pull them back. Now, everybody is still getting tier 1 instruction, but this is where we're pulling our students and really monitoring and focusing on those areas that they need for growth. So decoding level merge with higher level activities once those students have grasped the concept. Because we want to make sure we're giving everybody tier 1 instruction. But you go to the restroom, yes. If you take care of yourself, guys, we're grown. You need to go to the restroom, please go. All right, so we're going to create our groups. So what the grouping is actually going to look like is we're going to break it down to where we are. So we're looking here. We're going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes creating our groups and coming up with an activity that we can actually start tomorrow in our class. So I want to give you a takeaway piece. This is our charge piece. Because here you will see where our students need and where they are. Okay? I'm gonna just turn this just a little bit so we can see. So I'm gonna give you an example. So this is our CLI PLC with the beginning of the year. So with the beginning of the year model, what we're gonna look at is where students are. You have this on your table. Where students are. So this is their data point. This is where we're gonna look at their data points. When we're looking at their data points, so, and I use decoding for example, because I know that was a big one. So with decoding, that's where they are. Now we need to create a plan. So, how many times a week? How many times should we meet them? I'm going to target, especially if they were in the red, we need to look at 2 to 3 times a week at least. Okay, they really need to get us every day. But I know students want to go to other centers. They don't want to just sit there with you. They want to be able to play and do other things. That's fine. But you really need to target those students between 2 to 3 times a week, especially our red students. So with plan, we want to see how many times should we meet with them. Even now, what about our higher students? Should we look at them? Yeah, thank you. Yes, we should. We should definitely look at our higher students. Now, I may not see my higher students, but 2 times a week. That's okay, because I'm able to still work with them, because we want to, remember, you want to show that growth. So if they're already really high, we have to pull them in order to keep showing that growth. So 2 times a week, you make your plan. So you're going to tell me how many times and what you're working on, okay? Then as your group, as your tables, you're going to tell me what activities. So we're going to look at what activities. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. What activities? So I'm going to walk around and everyone has scratch paper and everyone has markers at your table. So I want you to look at that. Again, I'm going to go into that. We're looking at the beginning of the year data. Where they are based on the data points. Each of you have your data points on your table, and you can also use your technology so you can type it in your computer. I know sometimes when we're writing notes, you go back and you're like, oh, I forgot what I said, or I didn't know where the paper was, or you get busy. Go ahead and type. That's why I asked you to bring your computers. Go ahead and type it in your computers. I also have extra iPads at the back. Use those so you can go ahead and make your plan now. I would like for you guys to share that plan with me, but we will go with that after. So if everyone can open up their laptops, and I'm coming around to help. Yes, just push your power button. So we'll restart this computer and then you can open it up. Yes, so go ahead and work in your groups, and we will start talking about what plan, what activities. Also, if you look here, on the Teak design, I have different activities that you guys can pull from, okay? That you guys can pull from, and then the standards, situationships of things that you guys can use. Yes. So if you go here and you look at, so if you're saying you're gonna work, okay, I'm gonna use this as an example. Okay guys, I know y'all are working, keep working, but I do want us to stop for just a second. I'm gonna use this. So this is part of our Amplify curriculum that you guys have. I'm not asking you to create something brand new. Think of it at your minds. If you have good activities, use those activities for small groups. However, Amplify provides a small group activity that will work with direct instruction when we're dealing with our data-driven, right? We want to look at that. So when I said decoding and breaking down and coming with the, right here. So if this is an issue for my students, I could bring a small group. I'm going to model that on what I'm talking about. We assume that a lot of people know what they mean. So if I have a student here, and I'm working with the student and I'm saying, our sound is what? Yes. Y'all help me. I know you're not kids. I'm just giving an example. So then you would go through at. What is that? Cat. Good job. What is this? Id. I noticed this has a C. This has a for kid. But they're two different letters, aren't they? Do you notice that? Yes, I noticed they're two different letters. So with those two different letters, they both have the sound. Now, what if I put the letter C, the letter K together? What do I have? The letter CK, two letters that make one sound, right? It is which is black. What is that? Black. Yes, so this is a small group. Now, am I going to work with one person on this? Exactly. No, I'm not going to work on one person on this. I'm going to pull a group on this. So, and it will tell you your mastering. So if you go over here on this side, it will tell you this is the consonant code flipbook. And it helps with grades K through 3. So this is our Bluebonnet learning, our foundational learning. So all you have to do is open it up, and here it is. Okay? I'm not asking you to place anything else. You can go here, page 11.5. Here's the activities. All you're doing is pulling the activities. But what we want to know from it is this working? Are the students grasping? Because if not, then we need to look towards MTSS. This is where we need to stop and say, okay, I've worked with these kids for the last 6 weeks, and we don't want to say, I worked with these kids for 3 times a week and it didn't work. No, we want to show a trend, a common trend on it. I worked with this student 3 times a week for the last 4 weeks, and I noticed this student didn't have any growth based on the assessment that I gave. Okay, it could be a really quick assessment, and then upload that in MTSS so we can use that when we're looking to see, do we need to test this student? And it doesn't mean we're trying to just send them to special ed. No, that is a big no-no. What we want to look at is say, what's going on? You know, is this isn't working. I need to try other activities. I need to try other things. I try to give at least 2 to 3 things that you're trying before just going in and saying, no, this worked. This isn't going, or yes, this worked. So that's why I said at least 3 to 4 weeks of continuous patterns of working with them. So continue to go through and work with your activities. I just wanted to show you what it looks like by modeling and showing you. Yes, and you can share on my email. So if you go to your Google Slides and just share your slide with me, whatever you're going to use, I will see it there. I just want to see your plan. And I know you guys are amazing teachers. So by far, I'm not in here to say, oh, the plans aren't working. We need to do this is beginning of the year data. This is what we have, right? Parents send us our best. They send us what they have. So what we need to look at with the beginning of the year data is creating these plans. I'm going to go through, when you share those plans with me, I'm going to go through and look and see, okay, how can I help with these plans? What times works best for me to come in and pull in and work? Where can I help you? That's what I want to know. So that's why you're sharing those plans with me. It's not for me to look and say, oh, this looks terrible, or this looks wonderful. This is for me to look and say, okay, these are the needs of these students. How can Dr. Madison come in and help with these different classes? It gives me a set of eyes, a set of focus, a direction that we're doing based on these students' data. Because if you didn't see, we had a lot of red, right? We had a lot of red. So I'm gonna give you about 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna move on. Oh yeah, that's great. And then if you think about it, if you do your reading and your math, you can do your reading and your math group. So during reading group, you may meet 2 to 3 times a week. Math group may not be as low, so you may need to only meet with your math group about 2 times a week. Now you'll have those, what I would do when I made my plan, Fridays was used in order to help students that I noticed kept struggling, it also was used to help grow those students that were already at their levels or beyond. So that blue, that's where they were at those levels and beyond. And I see for you, Ms. Wilson, you have a lot of blue, which is good. So that means, am I gonna keep teaching at that level when I know they're already past that? Exactly, no, you're not. Take it higher. Go and look, what's first grade doing? What's second grade doing? So I can pull some fun activities that I can work with them so I can challenge their minds. Because you have to realize when we're looking at that growth, we're looking for students to make growth. That's your red, your very low learners, your bubble students, the yellow learners, and the blue and green students. Because remember, the green are already on level. You're taking them higher. The blue, they're above grade level. So we have to show growth in each of those levels. I'm coming to you guys soon. Yes, yes, definitely. Yes, we're gonna go into that. Okay, so I heard most of you have already created your groups. I saw the emails come through. I heard the pinging of the emails come through, and I appreciate that. This is a direct plan that we will use. So if you look here, here's our action piece. This is what you'll see. Leadership team will come observe these groups next week and give data points and feedback. So we are going to give data points and feedback. This is our action piece. So we looked at the data, we identified common trends, recreated plans and groups. Now, what we're going to do, since you have your plan, we're going to come in to observe it. And we're not looking for, I want to stop the myth of we're looking for aha. We're not looking for that. We're coming in to see, are the students grasping it? Is this plan working? If it's not working, how can we fix it as the leadership team? So it's not in here to say aha, it's in here to correct what leadership needs to correct. It's helping us. We do want to see, is it working? Is it not working? We want to hear your feedback. Dr. Madison, this is not working. It's taking extra time for me. Let me know. I could come in and create a plan for you. The reason why we had you guys, teachers, create the plan because y'all are the ones that know your students. You're in there every day. Dr. Madison's not in there every day. I don't know. You know better than I do. Now, I can create plans, so you can come to me and say, the focus point, and I saw your email, Ms. James, the focus point that I'm focusing on is decoding. And I noticed I don't know how to break that down with decoding. I have a plan for that. That's why I'm here to help if you need that. Use me as a resource. So what we'll do is we'll come in and observe those groups that you just created next week and give data points and feedback. You can sign up for a time enough for us to come by. We're not gonna just come in and say, aha, we're surprising you. No, it's really to learn, grow, and get that feedback from you guys. So thank you for your time with that. Before we close out, I do wanna make sure that you guys sign those points, and then we're gonna popcorn out and talk about how those areas are going to really target those students. I wanna hear from you guys. I'm coming around to see on your chart paper, and we'll place some of them up. Yes, you can do it. And that's fine. I'm gonna put that there. You can. Okay, can I use you guys from Miss James' group? We're gonna go over yours. Yes, I'll take it. There we go. Yes. We'll go over this. Okay, so for their group, for their small group, they said it'll be 3 times a week. They're gonna use addition skills. They identified the students and the levels that they were, and they said doubles. So they wanna go over doubles for addition facts. Now, what I like about this is the way you formatted the addition. Sometimes when they see the number, so 2 plus 2, but when they see it on top of each other, they freeze up, right? They say they don't know. I don't know what that is. You just did it. So it doesn't matter if it's horizontal or vertical. However it is, that's that answer. So working on doubles, okay? Now, an activity you can use with that, if I want to add, can I add? Okay, I got you. So an activity I would use for that is I will pull out manipulatives. Sometimes I'm using it up here, 2 plus 2. I know we say we don't want 2, add 2 more, that's 4. Okay, but if students are struggling with that, can you pull manipulatives in a small group? Yes, exactly. You can. You could pull those manipulatives in a small group. Let them see that. That tactile learning is very important, friends. When we're looking at that, let me call y'all friends because I'm so used to little ones. But guys, when you're using that tactile learning, those manipulatives come in handy. Sometimes just looking at it up here, they don't know it. This is real. Okay? Using those manipulatives. Because when they get on that test, they can draw those manipulatives. You know, teach them from going to tactile to paper and pencil. It takes time. And maybe that's what they need. So it's not that they don't know it, but seeing how they answer that. Thank you, group 2. Let me take this back. Thank you guys for letting me use you guys on this one, because that was really good. So those are areas that we want to focus on. Another thing I want us to look at before we close out, and I love the groups, I love walking around and hearing about them. Few of the things we want to look at. We look here, okay? So our goals, this is from last year, so we always want to go back and say, where were they last year? Where are we now? So I wanted to highlight on this presentation where it's talking about the areas. So yes, we have students' names, but if you look here, at the beginning of the year, he was at 152. The middle of the year, he grew. He's at 161. The end of the year, Rick, was 168. So it went from 152 to 168. That kid grew, right? We look at here, it grew 16 points, because remember, they're not counting the middle. It's only going from beginning and end of the year. So did they meet the goal? Yes. I created this chart so you can see. You don't have to go in and figure out did they meet it, add it up. I've already done it for you. So if you look, all of the beginning of the year goals are there. If it's a star there, that means they did not take the beginning of the year test. And if it did not count towards the growth of, or they didn't meet their goal or not meet their goal because it didn't count. That's why you see the asterisk there. But outside of that, I've already written up for the beginning of the year, red, the middle of the year, and the end of the year, red. So this is why we want to look at that data. And this tells us the growth they made from beginning to end of the year. And even though we say we don't look at the middle of the year, we are looking at middle of the year because we want to see how are they growing from beginning to middle. We want to look at those things. When you go back and check out for as far as state growth and as far as for the district, they look at beginning and end. But for us, we're going to look at how they grow from the beginning to where they are in the middle. Now, the middle is important because we want to make sure, okay, this is where they are now when we take that middle of the year assessment to where we need to stretch them to make it towards the end so they can meet those goals. And it tells you, so here in this class, 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 did not meet the goal. And then we have 3 that didn't count towards it because they didn't take the beginning of the year. That's why that snapshot day is very important. It's October 30th for us. We're gonna be looking to see if they're not enrolled by that date, they will not count towards that data. Now, does that mean we do not work with those kids? No, that does not mean that. We still wanna work with them. We still wanna do other formative and other testing to see where they are in order to grow those kids. But they do not count towards that type of data. And I'm gonna answer your question in just a second. Yes, so we're looking at for the CLI. So yes, so that is where they were. That's from, I pulled that from the last year data. And if you look in there, so that's from the last year data. And if you look, when I go back, I'll pull for this year's data. So that way you can see where those students were. And it's on so I'll show you how to get there. Go to your Google Drive, and I've dropped it in the Google Drive for each class. So each class already has it. I didn't share that as one document because your class data is your class data. But I did drop it in the Google Drive so everyone can have access to it. Okay, you see it? You see it? Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. We're good? Yes, so you have your students' last year data. What I did is compile the list of those students from last year that you have now and included their last year data so you can see where they were to where they are now with the beginning of the year data and how we can increase. Remember, we want to use that data and drive it for our instruction. I want to go back to this slide because I want to make sure that you guys go back in there and sign up. I checked my board. If you look at the back, you can see on my emails, I did pull it up so you guys can see. I only have 8. I'm missing 5. So if I can get 5 more people to sign up for a time so the leadership team can come by one day next week. Yes. Yes, you select what works best for you. This isn't I got you. We're gonna make it work best for you and where we are. Yes. Yes, and I also wanted to show you guys, okay, we're just waiting on 2 more people to sign up for a time. And while we're doing that, there we go, all right. So we have 100% signed up. Thank you guys. So we will be by there next week to observe that data. I also want to pull these. These are great. So they're sentence strips. You could create a sentence, cut these out, and let kids put them in order. When you look at how that test asks, they may say, words in a sentence, but how they ask is, how many words are in a sentence? So kids could count, okay, this is the sentence. Now that I cut it, how many words are in that sentence? That's also a quick activity to use. So I wanted to go over some of those activities. I showed with the addition, using manipulatives. I showed with the making sentences and counting those numbers in that sentences. Some of those datas, those were our 3 lowest points. The math, the addition, and subitizing. It was also the decoding. That's why I used decoding. And it was also coming up with the sentences. So how many questions were in that sentence? Those were the 3 lowest across the campus. So it didn't matter if it was kinder, first, second, third, or fourth, or fifth. It was all of, even pre-K, it was all across the campus. So I want us to really look at those students who need those things in order to use that. Yes. Yes, and it's important, that's why I wanted us, so let's go over what we went over today. So we looked at our data, we found trends within our data, we created plans, action plans, in order to help those students where they are, in order to have activities to do, when we create activities to do for those students. And then we have where leadership will come through to see those activities being done. See if it's working, get feedback from you guys, because we're gonna revisit this. This is an ongoing cycle. If it's not working, we're gonna go back to the board and say, okay, this is not working, this is what we need to do. So it's very important that we have teacher input, teacher engagement, teacher involvement in this, because you guys are the glue of this heart. You know your students, you see them every day, you know what the need is. And that's why we're asking for you guys to come and give us that feedback. Yes, and I will answer any questions that you guys may have. I want to set these back. Yes, and that's true. Not all students are struggling. That's a really good question. Not all students are struggling. You saw that. We have a lot of blue across our campus. Not all students are struggling. That's important. But you still have to show that growth. So in order to show that growth, you have to push those kids and make sure, not physically push them, but you want to make sure they're getting things that is on their level. You know, if they're in the first grade class and are already in blue, go look, see what second grade and third grade is doing. All of you have access to that curriculum to look and see what other activities can I use? How can I take this higher? You know, how can I do a book report? How can I do a project? How can I do a live living library? Something that you can do for those students. Because it's not just the struggling students we need to look at. It's also those students that already reached those goals. Because they're the hardest to push. Your struggling students, you will notice, based on trends, they show a faster growth. Okay? They're getting it. They're going, you're going. But the students that are already overachievers that are in your blue, they don't grow as fast. So you want to make sure that you're challenging them, charging them to that challenge. Don't keep them on that level, because it's looking, that main thing, that exam, it's looking for the growth. So they want all students to grow. Yes, and that's why they use the beginning, middle, and end. Now for us, again, the two that counts for the district and the state is beginning and end. However, we will be looking at middle of the year data just to show where they grow from beginning to middle. Because if you go back and look at your T-test, those are the two things that they focus on. So on two T-tests, when you do your beginning of the year, middle of the year, and your end of the year goals, you could say, my beginning of the year goals was this. Students are now here towards the middle of the year. Now they're here, now I have them here towards the end. So it just gives you additional data for your help as well. Yes. Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you. I'm going to have you guys, you already submitted your plans. So I thank you for your time, and know that you are valued. We appreciate you. You guys know you have the knowledge. We're here to team up with you. You're in the class every day. I keep saying that. I want you guys to know that you're valued. We appreciate what you do and how you're doing it and what you're doing it for. We're here for the students, and we're here to team up. It's not I got you. We're not trying to say, oh, this is what it is. So I do appreciate you guys for that. Thank you.